All right, here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to this training for you, specifically the people who have attended the goal setting retreat. When we were planning this thing, what was the thing that we said? What's the upside? What's the downside? What was the number one thing we did not want to happen that we were trying to mitigate against? Do you remember?
No. This is extemporaneous, so I'm not sure where you're going.
It was people walking away and feeling like they didn't get value. And we really worked hard to bring it, and we wanted to make sure that the reason we're doing this call is because we didn't want it just to stop there. We wanted to make sure that we held a space at least a month later for us to come back together to find out what's been on your mind since we last met. What are the questions that you have? What are the obstacles that are in your way that are stopping you from having clarity on your goals and having clarity on what you need to do to accomplish them? So we're going to invest the next hour working with you. This is your time to submit your questions. What's holding you back? What questions do you have, whether it's around clarity on your goals, how to make sure that you're taking action on your goals, whether it's about how to take your GPS and convert it to your 411, whatever it is, put that in the questions box because we're just going to work with you for the next hour.
Yeah. I know that there were different, it was the first time we taught that in such a large setting.
Yeah.
And there were people that did some exercises that I thought were going to be really tough. And everybody just was like, that was great. That worked. And then there were things that, because we have the curse of knowledge, I just observed to you, Jeff, before we on, this is the third time that you've built an annual 411. Mm-hmm. And it's the 18th time I've built an annual 411. But the first time you do that process, you're not sure you're doing it right. And it can be a tough process.
Yeah.
And that we really felt that in the room for a lot of people who'd never done it. So This is a good chance to get that follow up and make sure that people have it. Can we blow out their questions where we can see them bigger?
I will put that there and I'll click that button and it'll make it do that, which is really exciting.
Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Deb. Thank you very much for being here. And I do want to acknowledge, thank you to everybody who did fill out those quizzes. We reviewed every single one of your feedback and we were just amazed at the value that you guys got. That felt amazing. And thank you for helping us understand how we could get better. We heard some very common themes around us doing a better job in terms of curating the people who speak across the room, making sure that it's even and everybody gets a chance to have their voice be heard. We heard one of the things you guys would like for next year is the opportunity maybe for us to break into smaller groups to work together to mastermind around it. We heard feedback around powdered creamer. No powdered creamer next year. That will not be happening. That's my one thing for 2018. No powdered creamer.
Well, yeah, it was the artificial chemical stuff. I mean, I drink mine black whenever I run into that too. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
So thank you very much. And we're on our own road to mastering. We look forward to making it better this year. And we'll let you know the moment that we have those dates lined up.
Made Lee Bogar happy on the creamer. Yes.
That is awesome. So, again, if you guys, whatever questions you guys have, please go ahead and put them in the questions box. We're going to dive in and start answering them. So for Dylan said, I'd say that doing an accountability check by just asking that, are you doing your weekly 411 in rank and order of priority? I tend to be distracted by tasks that seem urgent and can usually be done later. So here's a good accountability check. How many of you, walking away from the goal setting retreat, you go back into your lives today, can physically hold up a packet that includes your goal setting now, includes your someday goal. In fact, we're going to go first. How many of you have printed someday goals? Yes in the questions box or no in the questions box. And there's no right or wrong. This is simply a matter of seeing where we're at. Okay. Most of you, yes. And
I'm going to say, just for the record, I'm a no.
Oh,
I'm a no.
Snap.
We've been doing this for so long. We always focus on the 5-year, and we have this discussion about where we're going. And the first place we've ever documented it, the first time I'd ever seen someone document the someday is when we did it together. Mm. So when we got together, mine first page. So I'm with the people who said no. I'm with you on that. So I have an opportunity to grow as well. But 5-year, right? We know where we have this conversation around our someday goal. Where are we going as a family? Where are we going as individuals? Based on that, what do we have to do in 5 years? So we have an opportunity there as well. I just want to take anybody off the hook that said no.
And Mary Sallee says, printed? Yes, Mary. Yes.
All right, printed. It could be printed by hand. It doesn't have to be kind of on the computer. I'm fine. Like Gary does his 411 in a notebook.
Really?
Oh yeah. He writes it out and he'll take a page of his journal and he'll just do the lines. His is pretty short.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, he's pretty good at this, right? But when I've seen him do his goals and he's shown me in his notebook, I've got a photocopies around here somewhere. It's just all done. You can tell he's just journaling and getting clearer and clearer and clearer, and then he just does a page.
Boom.
So I think printed counts, even if you did it with a crayon.
Nice. This thing. How many of you have your 5-year goals set? Yes in the questions box, or no. Just let us know where you're at. He's a yes. I'm a yes.
No.
Inez is a not yet.
Oh, no, I lied. I did my 5.
Oh, wait, she did her 5.
Woo!
Woo! She's team yes. All right. So interesting. We got a lot of people yes on the some days and split on the 5-year. How many of you have your 1-year goals set? Yes in the chat box or no? Okay, 1 year. We got those done. All right. Very
All right,
nice.
well, let's stop there. Can you remember to pick up then? What's the challenge on the 5-year goal, you think? Because people are going from someday straight to 1 year. We've skipped that intermediate step. What do we think the challenge is?
I'll turn it to the people who don't have their 5-year yet. What has stopped you? What's gotten in your way? Yes to 1 year. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm very curious. Hey, Michael, thanks for being here, man.
This may be something that someone's like having to write a small essay. So while they have an opportunity to write that, the first time you did it, was that a place that you struggled at? And Inez, you can chime in the background here too.
So this was interesting when Inez and I did this together to prepare for it. Someday we were able to get our goals down, but when we went to 5-year, it actually took twice as long because by then it was much more specific, much more measurable. We had to look at what the someday was and get it to the 5, and I could see how just simply required more thinking, which is more opportunity to get distracted.
Okay, well, I'm going to piggyback on that. When I think about someday goals, it feels a little bit like a dream board if you've ever done one of those. It feels very aspirational, right? And so because it's a someday goal, it's not even locked in time. It's not 10 years. It's not 20 years. It's just out there. It can feel very vague. And so we feel more comfortable with it. 5 years, the first place we're trying to get specific. Well, based on that, where do we need to be in 5 years? And nobody thinks that way. We have no practice at that sort of long range planning. And we feel like we need to be a lot more accurate than we are actually capable of doing. So I just want to say, I think that a lot of it is you're trying to be maybe more specific than you need to be. We're not practiced at doing it, but most people have set a lot of 1-year goals in their life. So that is the next comfort zone. So I would encourage people who haven't done their 5-year goals to ignore their 1-year goals, go back to their someday goals and try to quantify based on where I want to be someday. What's the one thing I need to accomplish for my finances, wherever you're asking that question, to feel like I'm on track for that?
Yeah.
And no, it could be very fuzzy. So what were they saying?
So Danielle said fear of not accomplishing it.
Yes.
That's good. Kimberly says, I'm not clear about my next steps in the 1 year. So 5 is way out there for me.
Okay. Can I just stop? Time out. Go the other direction.
Yeah.
If you're going to be probably equally unclear about the 5 than the 1 year. But if you start with the 5, we all are unclear there. Anybody who says they're clear there is lying. I'm sorry. I mean, because they think they're clear, right? They're being truthful in their intent, but nobody has a crystal ball that sees that far.
Yeah.
But it gives us a target. And from that target, we can say, well, based on that, what would I have to do this year?
Right.
And the trick is, Kimberly, at the end of this year, you'll have so much more clarity about what you can do in 1 year, aimed at that 5-year, aimed at that someday. You'll refine both of them the next time you do it.
Yeah. Deborah says, someday is a dream state. 1 year feels manageable. 5 years fuzzy.
Yeah, there you go.
That's about right. Now, Heather said 1 year is harder than 5.
Heather, chime back in if you could tell us more about that. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm super interested in that.
Yeah.
Kimberly says, I'm specifically looking at making a change in my life that has just come about since the goal setting retreat. Well, that's pretty awesome.
I hope that's, I hope that's a
good.
super positive thing. Like you've got a realization that change is necessary, and that's a great outcome.
Maybe, yeah, never mind, filter. Yes. Michael, do you see having business partners having a more difficult time discussing 5-year goals as there is more potential for divergence in them and in the partnership?
it really depends on how you look at it. Because they're fuzzy, you could say because they're fuzzy, it's easier for us to find a fuzzy match. You know what I'm saying, right? The lines are blurred, so it's easier to find the overlap. And when things are really specific at 1 year, people tend to be a lot more intent. Like we talked about John Davis, our CEO. If you put down a 1 year goal, he kind of expects you to hit it. And that tends to be very specific. So I could see it being the opposite. So I would be comfortable with some gaps at that 5 year. What I'm looking for with a partner is, are we aligned? When Wendy and I sit down, like the most important part of this, my wife and I, is, are we fundamentally going in the same direction? Mm-hmm. If not, we have to have a conversation about that. That doesn't mean either of us has to do a 180. We have to be happy being at times out of sync in order for us to hit goals that aren't perfectly aligned. And we're not ever going to be perfectly aligned in all 7 areas.
Yeah.
But it's that conversation about the lack of alignment. It's the real value there.
Right. Michael, I'm wondering what are you afraid of if there is not an alignment? That's a conflict. And if the conversation is the relationship, what's the conversation that needs to be had? And when would you rather have that conversation, now or later? Lynn says, maybe I'm just afraid of the ginormous chasm between the 5 year and the 1 year goal.
Yeah. And I will say this, Lynn, and it's consistently surprises me. We always overestimate what we're going to get done this year, and we underestimate how far we'll go in 5.
Yeah. And
at the end of this year, you're going to start to see that the chasm is smaller than you thought, but the things that you thought you'd do this year are more than you thought you could. That's always the case.
So Heather did chime back, and she said, my larger goals are easy. Breaking it down to what I need to do today to nail the 5 year has just been more challenging.
I think I can see that. I think in especially some disciplines, you're like, okay, so how do I break this down to, it might be 3 things this year, honestly, in some weird areas. But yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, very cool. So here's the next question. So it seems like everybody, we know where you're at in terms of someday 5 year, 1 year goals. How many of you took that step and converted your 1 year goals into a 1-page business plan, what we call a GPS? Yes or no in the questions box.
And no scoring on this one, because I think of a GPS as a business plan, and I could use a GPS for how I'm going to apply to graduate school.
Yep.
I could use it for how I'm going to prepare for a marathon. It's a step that we use for specific things. Oh, great. Well, everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody's doing it. Okay.
Very cool. Now, how many of you, based on your GPS, informed your 411 and have your 411 updated for the year? So you've got your goals for the year, and based on that, what you need to do this month, and based on that, what you need to do this week. Yes or no in the questions box. Look at you guys. Shoes, we were just talking about you. Thanks for being here, man.
So both of the last 2 questions, there was at least one person who said no. I didn't get to see the comments. That one right there, we could read that. I'd be curious there was the couple of people who didn't get to the 411. Was there something specific that held you back? If there's a piece of knowledge or understanding that we can help with, or if it's just I didn't time block it because it was the holidays, I get it.
Did anybody struggle with going from GPS to 411? If so, put number 1 in the chat box. That way I can clarify.
Number 1 for me. I always do.
Okay, cool. I'll do a high level overview of this. I did like 40 minutes of this yesterday on a call for Living Your One Thing. So I don't want to be repetitive.
Real quick before we go to you change screens.
Yes.
Okay. I want to go back. I want to make sure for the people who struggle with the 411, just give them another second. If they had like, I don't understand this. This is our chance to really address that.
On the 411?
Yeah. And okay. You might cover it. I just want to give them a chance if they're typing. And I want to read this person's response about.
That's Mary.
Yeah. I can't read past the microphone. Great news. The whole process with me. And we are in the process of working on our GPS. Got it. So 1's in process. Well, thanks for being super honest. And yes. Okay, good. All right. Well, chime back in. I'm not going to say that person's name. I never want to call out the people who said no.
All right, cool. All right. So can you see my screen? If so, put something ridiculous in the chat box.
Typing something ridiculous is going to, I'd misspell that in a heartbeat.
Well, that's okay.
Okay.
Jeff, you have the questions on the other screen.
Can you see it?
No, yes, that's
yeah.
for you guys to see the questions separately. So
but could they see them?
No, they
No.
can't see that.
That's
Okay.
for
That's
us.
just me.
You're already on 3 screens, dude.
Yeah.
Well, because I don't like just one screen. That would be ridiculous. Why just choose one?
All right. So is his GPS visible? Great.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Let's get
So
back to it.
I'm showing you our
Lynn
GP.
typed something ridiculous.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you,
I
Lynn.
knew someone was,
Thank you,
and Mary
Lynn.
Salee did as well.
Yes,
Thank you
that's
both. I
right.
knew some smart Alex would be in the room.
All right. Okay. So here is our GPS. So we've got our one big goal for the year. And based on that, we've asked the question, what are the big priorities, the big initiatives, such that by doing would accomplish the goal? And for us, the number one, it happens to do with our email list.
Hold on. You're just racing through this for me.
This is
So-
why I normally go so.
So here. So yeah, I know. So what other things did you consider besides profit? I love for a business goal, I love profit, because what's the purpose of a business but to make a profit? And if you fulfill that, you get to fulfill your mission.
Yes.
Businesses that aren't profitable don't get to change the world.
Yes.
So that's a great place to start. Were there other things that you consider besides that?
Membership growth.
Membership growth, because you knew that would drive profit.
Correct.
So like in Keller Williams, I know agent count, we know that we've now, we've been at 30 years. We know that that's the metric that drives everything else.
Right.
So profit,
Yes.
and it's very specific.
Very.
Like it. Okay. I just wanted to stop there because that some people might go, oh, you're just greedy. Why are you putting profit up there, Jeff? I think it's actually a fundamental question if you're running a business. Are you comfortable having that discussion? You'd be surprised how many people aren't.
Oh, that's interesting.
My wife's goals, help 400 families. And I'm like, okay, do you care if you make a profit while you're doing it? She goes, I know we will. I'm like, okay, then I'm going to laugh you back. But I had to ask the question.
Yeah.
But some people don't want to go there. So I like that you did because that's what we're taught around here.
Okay, cool. So that's our goal. And based on that, the first priority for us is growing our email list. It's the one thing that makes everything else easier or unnecessary. Now, here is where for many of us who we are not individual contributors where we own everything on this, we've got people in our world, we have the strategy. So if we can only do one thing to drive the email list, it's sell more books. That is not this guy's job. That's the other guy in...
I got you covered.
Thank you.
We got that.
I was going to make a comment about the fact how we're both wearing earth tones, but it just didn't come to me fast enough. So, all right. Step 2 is us publishing more books. If we're going to create a planner for this year. Schumacher walked out of the room and said, I need a planner. Thank you very much, Shoes, by the way. And we are going to create one for the one thing. That's not my job. That's Madelaine's opportunity. We are considering writing a book around living your one thing, about what it looks like to live your one thing. That's Megan's opportunity. We are going to write a fable based on the one thing.
Who's July?
That's Gary and having it done by July.
Ah, got it.
Who
Got it.
and when.
Hey, just making sure that wasn't someone named July. I didn't know.
He's feisty today. It's good. All right. So let me ask you a question. If this strategy does not have your name next to it, whose 411 does it go on? Let's see your thoughts. Whose 411 does book sales go on? That's right, Jace. Okay. So number 3, 1.3 is when we finally get to me. Segment email list. So when we actually look at our 411, or my 411 very specifically, boom shakalaka. Priority number 1, grow 70K, email list. Number 2, or then the next one was host 12 One Thing webinars, has my name next to it. That goes on my 411. Number 3 was around podcast episodes. That goes on my 411 because my name was next to it. Okay, so once you have it on your GPS, you're assigning it to who owns that strategy that then feeds their 411 for the annual.
Let's go back to the GPS. I want to observe something. You've got you're working with a small army, right?
Yeah.
You and Inez, fundamentally.
Yes,
So who owns priority number 1?
I do.
I know. And that may or may not show up depending on how you wrote it. That actually does show up on your 411.
It does.
And so depending on the size of your company, like if you work in a big company, right, and you've got 3 divisions and one division's in charge of email, you might have your VP of emails named by that, and then it's their people under them. So it can go with layers. We've talked about this when we teach it. Sometimes this GPS can look a little bit like your org chart if your business is organized around priorities that show up all the time. Obviously, we're not going to have a VP of emails, but that's an opportunity here. It's assumed by me, but I just wanted to point that out. In a bigger company, there might be someone's name right there.
Right. Because one of the biggest misconceptions we see is people thinking they literally have to copy and paste their entire GPS to the annual section of their 411. That's not the case. It's the things that you are going to own, that you are going to be focusing on and bringing clarity and accountability to.
Well, in a sole proprietorship, right, they might have everything on their 411. If I'm an independent contractor and I am an army of one, until I have any forms of leverage, that might be the case. But that immediately tells you need to be successful fast so you can get leverage.
That's right.
And you need to narrow that list. It needs to be a very small 135 so that you can actually accomplish what you've got going.
So Mary asked if I have my own 135 or if I move this onto my 411. So this is my 135 because, again, we're a small army of me plus. Right? So this is my GPS. Now, could I go and develop a full-blown GPS just for email list growth? Oh, you betcha. Could I develop an entire GPS on creating training materials to teach existing Living Your One Thing members how to refer their friends? All day, baby. So
and that can happen. Like Inez is named by that, right?
Yeah.
But if that was like a huge part of her 411, she might say, you know what, I need to break this down. How am I going to make this happen? And that's when that would happen.
That's right.
For 135s and GPSs embedded in each other.
There you go. All right. So any more questions on the GPS before we move on? Lee Bogar, I just saw your husband. At what point do you leverage activities? Is that too vague to answer on the webinar? I'm punting that one to you.
No, it's not too vague. That's a big question everybody asks. Like, when do I earn the right to pay someone else to do it? And there's two ways to leverage things. You can build a system that does it for you, right? And with today, automating all kinds of free tools, there are lots of ways that you have to invest time to make that happen.
That's right.
You could leverage it out to a virtual assistant if you've really systematized it. So it's a very cheap sort of leverage that you can get. Or then hiring someone, right? There's all those stages between you and hiring. Hiring someone's huge because if you hire them to do 5 things and they're great, they're gonna do those 5 things and they say, what else, boss? But usually you have to earn the right to have that person on board. So I look up and you say, 1, do you have enough to have at least 3 months of their salary in reserve? So if the business isn't moving forward as you expect, you can at least get them around for 90 days. Because what do we teach happens in the first 90 days?
30, 60, 90.
Right. We're going to find out whether they're a good fit in 90 days. You don't have to have a whole year's salary saved up to hire someone. And if they're doing their job, they should be bringing enough incremental growth that they're justifying staying on board after that, especially if they're in the path of money, and your very first hire might be freeing you up so you can earn more money. And if you're not being freed up, you kind of know that you've not thought through the position well enough. Yeah. So it's a big question you just asked there, Lee, but it's one we get a lot. I usually ask people, how can I get someone else to do this for me? Think about like when you're a young parent, right? You can't afford a babysitter yet, but you could do a babysitting co-op in your neighborhood, get other parents to trade, do sleepover. There's all these things that you can do to be clever around finding that free time. Right? Let's do a play date at your house. And for the first 2 hours, you can go to your office and knock out some emails. And for the next 2 hours, because we know that, there's a lot of ways we get leverage, but it takes an investment and some creativity. Yeah.
Mary said I had an aha that some of the names that are on my GPS are not individuals who are on my team specifically. And that's true. One of my biggest challenges is the fact that it's me plus her. And we have a leverage problem, yet we still happen to sit in a bigger company and are a part of a bigger team where people who do want to help and have some bandwidth. And so they're picking up some of the slack, which has been very helpful.
Well, leading people and getting people involved that are not directly reporting to you is always a challenge. So Mary, if you've got that, you just have to be a lot more purposeful about holding them accountable. If they've raised their hands and said, I'm going to do this, like, you can't fire a volunteer, right? So you have to be engaged and you have to definitely check in to make sure they're following up.
Yeah.
Leading volunteers is the hardest thing in the world to do, and it's a great test of leadership. So it's a good growth area.
Yeah. Michael asked, what does the GPS stand for? And it's goal, priority strategy. And like a GPS in your car, it gets you to where you want to go. There you go. All right. Mary says, we're doing it. I'm not being purposeful about using them and holding them accountable.
Yeah.
And is that an opportunity for you?
Well, especially if they're attached to some of your top priorities,
Oh, yeah.
then you really have to work. So Jeff, you hope, I mean, he gets regular sales reports. If I'm not selling the books that are his number one strategy under his number one priority, he needs to be in communication to me and say, how can I help? What are we doing? What can we do differently to make sure that outcome happens? Because I don't report to you, but I'm on your GPS.
That's right. All right. So any more questions on the GPS before we move on? I think we've pretty much exhausted that one. Okay.
All right, I'm going to do a qualification.
Yes, you can.
Jeff has now put out there that there are book titles that we are considering writing. In fact, planning on writing. Nobody please go post on Facebook that we're writing this book and that it's going to be out this year, because you know how much I love answering questions. When is this book coming out? Because we can write a book. We don't get to publish it until who says it's ready?
Gary.
That's right. Do I get to control when Gary says yes?
No.
Do I get to control when Gary will even read a manuscript?
No.
Okay, so please, for the love of God, don't go crazy with that, okay?
It sounds like you're
When is the
speaking
book
for-
coming out, smart aleck? Will you please ban John from these calls?
That was amazing. Okay, going back to the screen. So you guys, seems like you guys have a good feel on what gets put onto the 411. And then based on this, so this is my 411. This is the annual section. Come on, I just tried to make it bigger. There we go. So you see I have the strategy or the priorities from the GPS, and then I have my personal side based on what my wife and I agree to.
What are the
for this
numbers you
year.
got at the top? Because you keep peeking them, right?
These
Yep.
are 4 conversations.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And if people were seeing that and didn't know what it was, I want to make sure that people knew that there was something above it and you weren't hiding it.
I was trying to build the anticipation.
Okay, there we go.
There you
I was
go.
just trying to be a webinar watcher advocate.
Thank you. We get along so well. So this is my big thing for this year, really comes around family. In fact, we're curious, out of all the 7 circles, spirituality, physical health, personal, relationships, job, business, or finances, if there was only one area this year that you could make meaningful progress, what's your number one goal? What's that category for you? For me, it comes down to family, which falls under relationships. What's yours?
All right, we got health, we got relationships, finances,
Business, physical health, relationships, spiritual growth, relationships, then health, business, personal. Cool.
That's cool.
Does your 411 reflect that? So for me, you'll see when we get onto the personal side, there's a lot of stuff that falls under family, and that's for a reason. You know, these are things that really matter. Developing the habit of living within our budget, the habit of having a weekly family meeting, time blocking date nights, family activities that we batch plan for the entire month, the month in advance.
We haven't had our first 411 meeting of the year. So this is the first time I'm seeing this.
I know, I'm kind of going through withdrawals.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at that first one, develop habit, right? I think that your number 2 is the thing that the activity that will make that happen. Because your weekly family meeting, is that not also about your finances?
It is, but it
Feels like number 1's an outcome, not an activity. That's all I'm saying. First draft.
You're so right. All right.
That just
No,
highlight it and come back to it. If there's an activity that's not number 2, then that's what I would focus on. What's the activity that I can do to make my outcome happen?
by the way, this is why we do these in Excel and why we show them to you, because nobody's is perfect, and he's right. And I have 3, not 4.
Okay.
Up top.
There we go. So as long as you know that, right, this is personal. I mean, you're sharing it with the world. Bravo to you. I appreciate that about you.
No filter.
I know, but I love that you're willing to be transparent. But it's about, when you look at this, you know that I'm doing this weekly meeting. One, because what's the first question that Jay's going to ask me on Monday?
How'd your Sunday meeting go with Amy?
That's right, because I know that's of prime importance to you. You shared with me that that's your number 1. So that becomes a thing that we can both dig in on in our relationship to make sure that's happening. Because if that's not happening, what's happening on the business side?
Not good. I'm making short-term decisions to try to justify a lifestyle.
And that makes bad. Yep. So there we go. So sorry, just jumped in there. I'll
There we
try
go.
to sit back now.
There we go. All right.
Back to the regular scheduled programming.
Thank you. So these are my big rocks for the year. And based on that, we've gotten clarity on the things that really matter for this month. And based on that, we've gotten clarity on the things that really matter for this week. So to tie the entire system together by going way out someday and having clarity on what Amy and I want for our lives someday from now, it's informed where we think we need to be 5 years from now, which has formed our 1-year goals, which are tight and measurable. Based on that, I have a GPS to get us there, which has informed who is doing what. Some of it goes on his or hers or other people's 411s. And then I have my 411, my document, so that I have absolute clarity every single day on what my priorities are. So that when I open my computer and instead of checking email, I get to look and I go, oh, what should I actually be doing right now? Not checking email. Oh, preparing for the webinar tomorrow. And until that is crossed off, I don't really earn the right to focus on anything else, or I'm acting out of priority.
Okay. Immediately, can we all group edit your 411 now?
Sure, if you want.
So what will visiting the gym 150 times do for you?
Oh God, I knew he was going to ask that.
I just saw it.
Health is an area that I have neglected. And I asked the question, if I was able to get to the gym 3 times a week, which actually this morning I revised and said, is it really 3? Because if I miss and I realize it's not really 3, I won't care if it's 3. If it's 2, I'll feel better. So I'm already going to revise the number.
But if you show up to the gym, if you visit the gym, does that mean you're working out, or are you visiting the gym?
The goal is to actually work out, not just stare at myself in the mirror.
But I mean, is that a small domino? If I get there, I'm happy. Do you check it off if you walk through the door?
If I get there, I'm happy. Yeah. Because I'll do something.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, I'm not going to judge the length.
I do.
So you have a home gym.
I worked out in the kitchen this morning. P90X.
All right. Is that a visit to the gym for you?
Counts.
What I want to know is what counts, because
Yes.
that way we can have the accountability relationship. Did it just go from 150 to 100?
Because I told you I was going to drop it from 3 to 2.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Math.
All right. Exercise 100 times. So if you made it 120, it's 10 times a month.
Yeah.
Your math's going to be really weird. It's going to be 8.3 per month or whatever.
I like 100.
Okay, that's fine. You got it.
This is what our 411s look like.
Well, the first 411, by the way. So here's something I'm going to challenge everybody on the call for. Everybody's making fun of us now.
No, they're
Not
making
for
fun of
Portland
the
and haircut.
They're making fun of the fact that haircut's on my 20%, and you are right, because the moment it gets poofy, my wife starts making fun of me.
This is a man with hair, folks. Let me just tell you. We were talking about.
I had to trim just this. So if I take it off, it'll still look like I'm wearing a sweater.
Yeah, Wolfman here. But this is the process. I mean, I wanted to do this because I know Jeff's game. But if you don't have someone looking at your 411 because you're accountable to no one but yourself, I would really invite you to maybe pick someone from the group, someone that you met at this event, and say, hey, can you take a look at my 411 and ask me questions like Jay was asking Jeff? Right? That's ultimately, we both have coaches. That's what our coaches are going to ask us. What does this mean? How will you know you've done it?
Yeah.
And as good as we are, and Jeff, you've taught the 411 as much as anybody in this company in the last 2.5 years. I would probably say you've run laps 10 or 11 times around that, and have become one of the best 411 teachers I've gotten to hang out with. Now, I've heard Gary teach it, so I'm not going to say you're the best, but you're really good. But even you, when you don't have someone to help you, are not going to have the best possible outcome. So I'm using him as a loving example that everyone here should look to someone to bring some accountability to your 411 to make sure that you don't have 20% items like haircuts, which is not 20% for him, but you might have them.
It matters.
It matters to you. But I'm saying if someone else has a haircut and doesn't have your hair issue, it's not 20%.
You're right.
Maybe it's 20% because their self-image is tied up to it, right?
You like it over there?
I like it. I can't see it. The microphone's in the way.
Oh, okay. We're talking about where to put the questions box so we can see your. I like it over here. He likes it over there. We've been bickering as a result.
No, okay. I wish we could have it in both places. But if you do it over there, I'm going to move because I can't see it when you move it over there. Enough of this.
I'll do this for you.
So everybody got it? Please get someone you trust to be not tough on you, but to question what you're putting down there, to ask questions around your 411. I promise you it'll make it better.
Yeah. Michael says, my wife, Kate, and I started doing the Sunday night family meeting since the retreat, and she was very eager to participate and align our goals. Best takeaway from the retreat so far that stuck. That is so cool. That's really cool. Thanks, Michael. Lee said, so does 411 have to be activities, not outcomes? Is that the difference between the GPS and the 411? Great realization, Lee. Here's the reason we encourage people when they get it onto their 411 to make it actionable. How many of you have ever written your goals down on a sheet of paper? If so, put yes in the questions box. And how many of you have ever found yourself not looking at that sheet of paper or not actually achieving the goal? Put yes in the questions box. When we just have our goals written down as results, then we go through our days going, what should we be doing right now? And I don't know about you, but I've been the type of guy who has gotten out of a meeting, asked the question, what should I be doing right now? Got bored after 0.2 seconds and found myself checking email. Versus being able to look at a piece of paper that very clearly I had time where I batched and thought, this is my thinking time. This is my time to get clarity on what the activities are. And all I have to do is go, oh yeah, I have to complete the content marketing for the month. Stop thinking, start acting.
So I would just say this, if you want the outcomes, focus on the activities. Right? And that's what we've learned from Gary, from Diana Kokoska, who runs our coaching company. If you focus on the activities, the outcomes will follow. And in a lot of areas, we can focus on the outcomes, but we actually don't control the outcome. The classic examples in real estate, you can go on a listing appointment, but you can't control ultimately whether someone else is going to choose you to do business with. Right? And so you figure out, well, if 8 out of 10 of my appointments turns into a client and I want to have 100 clients, how many appointments do I have to go to? Now you've got the math. And I would say, well, we just go ahead and say, let's base it on 6 out of 10. Let's overcommit to the activities to make sure we're blowing through the outcomes. And the more clarity you have around the activities, which is a lot of the one thing, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, right? So yeah, there are a few outcomes on my 411, create 3 books, but right under that, first priority, 180 writing days for me. That if I do the writing days, the books will follow. And so while I have that up there so I can communicate to my coach why the writing days are there, because I have someone else involved in my 411, I try to focus on activities. So on your GPS, the goal statement, my wife has an activity, help 100 families. She already knows what the outcome of that is. You have an outcome, but everything under that pretty much is an activity.
Right.
So I wish it was like programmably black and white, but that's the premise behind activities. I always ask, could this be an activity? How will we know it's done? Yeah.
Deb asked, ideas to onboard a partner to review the 411 who is not involved in living your one thing, but is the rock and super supportive. Do you have a time that you sit down with them every single week? How can you have a time blocked for you to come together every single week, for you to show them your 411, not to press it on them, but to involve them in yours?
If they're not in this community, I would say, is it Deborah or Deb?
She goes by Deb.
That's what I thought. Deb, if they're not a part of this, obviously we have a weekly rhythm. We believe in that. You might just say a monthly meeting. Let me show you my monthly 411 and I'll walk you through it. Let's make sure that we're on the same page. Let's make sure that we're aligned. And I promise you over time, they may want to be on board, or at least they'll understand what you're doing. If they're willing to do weekly, I agree. But I would settle for monthly with a business partner you've been with for a long time, because it's hard to get really far out of sync.
Right.
But quarterly is not often enough.
So Deb, I'll show you this. All these things here were a result of Amy and I doing our Sunday meeting. And I asked her, what's really important to you that we accomplish for the family this week? And she made this, yes, she told me I needed a haircut. All right. So these were the things that she told me were important. And I whipped this out and started typing it down. She said, what are you doing? I said, this is my system to make sure that the things that are important to us get done. I'm not pushing the 411 on her, because I know if I push it on her, she's not going to be interested. So I'm going to continue to show her how by me putting it on here, miraculously things start to get done. I will wait for the day where her interest raises enough for her to say, can you show me how to do one of these?
Cool. Another question from Susan.
Susan, is the GPS about yearly goals? Yes.
Yeah.
Again, the GPS is a format to break a goal down into actions. Could it be for something you need to do tomorrow? You could create a GPS for that, but we use the GPS primarily as a business plan.
If you're new to that, you're sometimes going to hear Jeff and me specifically call it a 135, because when we first found it, that was what we called it, and we changed the name when we wrote the book. So there are people even on this webinar writing about their 135s, but what's my one goal for the year, the 3 priorities to achieve it, and 5 strategies for each priority. And we just said, all right, let's just make it goal priority strategies.
Yeah.
And I like GPS as an acronym.
There you go. There you go. So that wraps up the GPS and 411 portion of this. What questions do you have? What are the things, or here, coaching question. What's the one thing that's most likely to stop you this year from achieving your goals? Put that in the questions box and let's talk about it. Talk about that.
Wonder why finance isn't ahead of jobs and business in the circles, since if your finances were maximized, you might not need a job or a business.
So Karen asked the question, when we look at the 7 circles, they're in order of priority. Why does finances not come before business or job? The question I ask is, what makes finances easy or unnecessary?
Yeah, that's usually how the finances get in alignment. So the order that we created, just to be perfectly transparent, me and Gary wrestled with that for a long time to get the order down. That was specific to what we thought would be generally true. If you have a circle that we missed altogether, or they might be in a different order for you, that's up to you. But we generally teach it. That's been the priorities for us.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry.
Scroll down. I want to see what they said. My ego. What do you mean by that? Not time blocking and updating the 411 is most likely to keep me from hitting my goal. So Kimberly, if you know that not time blocking and not having time to update your 411 is the single biggest thing that would stop you from achieving your goals, what do you need to do? What actions do you need to take to ensure that that happens?
Or what one action? Or what one action could you do?
One action. Great clarification on the 411. Big transition this year. Very nice. In fact, I'm going to show you one thing since we're talking about time blocking. If I can find my...
Now you asked the question about my ego. What's the one thing that stops me?
Yeah.
It made me think, I don't know that this is the case, so this is me. It made me think that a lot of times, the idea of the fix versus the growth mindset. Sometimes, we don't like the idea of failing on the path to do it. And that's something, I don't know.
Interesting.
That would surprise me if that was worth it.
So I'm going to show you guys something that I did for the first time this year. Because when I look at our goals, growing our email list, that's going to require time for me away from the business to be working in our email list, developing strategies around our content. It's going to require time for me to be reaching out to other people, which I would classify as prospecting. When we look at our Living Your One Thing membership, again, time blocks for content management. It's going to require us reaching out to people and engaging with them, which is prospecting. When we start talking about corporate training, oh yeah, lots of prospecting time. And so when I looked at all of this, I said, great, what is the theme here? What's the theme? And I saw content management, I saw prospecting, and I also know talent. Getting in a relationship with talent were the 3 big things. And I said, great. So why don't I get really clear about what the important time blocks are for me in our business? And I got clear on the fact that every single week I need 3 hours for me to prospect. And my coach immediately said to me, how do we get more specific around this? What are the metrics? What are the numbers that he every single week could say, did you talk to 5 people, or did you make X number of calls? I still need to get that clarity. I realized that last year we were running around like a chicken with our head cut off every week, creating content last minute. It was very entrepreneurial versus acting purposefully. The purposeful solution is for this young lady to make sure that every single month I have an 8-hour, basically a day out of the office, for me to do all of this. Very specific around the content that needs to be created, and it's going to be batched. In regards to talent, I need 2 hours every single week to be either finding talent or meeting talent for the first time or nurturing relationships with talent. So the first thing that she does now when she looks at my calendar is she goes, did I block 3 hours this week for prospecting? Does he have his 8-hour time block for the month? Does he have 2 hours every single week for talent touches? And this is something my coach can ask me and say, did you do your talent touches for 2 hours? Yes or no? Okay, so that's, Kimberly, I think that'll help you.
I just add to that, Jeff. I mean,
Yes.
I did a similar activity where I took all of my goals a few years back and asked the question, what habits do I already have that'll help me make these things happen? And what habits do I need to form?
Yeah.
And then I time block those things. And so I do think that this shouldn't be 15 things you're time blocking.
Right.
I think that would be a mistake. But as much as you can, when you say a monthly content marketing time block of 8 hours, that's a day.
Yeah.
I would encourage you to be thinking of, it's the first Tuesday of the month, the third Tuesday of the month, because that becomes something that you can be habitual versus it moving around and you're just looking for 8 hours. And that's the sort of thing, the more ritualized it is, the more likely you are to repeat it. If you have prospecting time, what time of the day should you be doing prospecting?
Work to make this the same day each week. Example, Tuesdays from 9 to 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So working through that to make it habitual, like I have my Wednesday morning networking and I just know it's a Wednesday morning. I look at my calendar. Who am I meeting with?
Cool. Cool.
All right.
All right, folks. Ooh, look at this. Yes. Time blocking. I joined Time Blocking Mastery this year. Oh, cool. Thanks, Danielle. Distractions is what's most likely to stop Susan. Susan, what's the number one distraction that you would anticipate getting in your way? And what's the one thing you can proactively do to eliminate it?
Great. I love that.
Struggling with doing the small tasks as a solopreneur before I find leverage. Fight with myself about whether I should do or take time.
Do you want to go back to this?
Which?
So stop showing your screen. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. It's better if you're talking to people.
That's right. Okay, so I'm going to read this again. So Mary is struggling with doing the small tasks as a solopreneur before I find leverage. I fight with myself about whether I should do it or take the time to find the leverage.
We've all been there.
I say find it.
Yeah.
I
invest the time up front. Every week that you're doing those small tasks, I mean, you've heard the 30X rule, right? It might take you a full week. All right, the 30X rule. This comes from Rory Vaden, his book, Procrastinate on Purpose.
Yes.
He heard it from a guy on an airplane, so nobody knows where this actually came from. But he says if you're doing a task, you've been doing it habitually, it will take you 30 hours to teach someone else how to do that.
30 times, however long it takes you.
That hourly task.
Yeah.
Is where I was going to finish. So every week people are faced with, I've got another hour of doing X. And they look at the math and say, well, I could invest 30 hours this week into teaching so-and-so to do it and finding that system, leveraging it out. And they almost never make that choice. But at the end of the first year, how many hours have you wasted by not doing that?
If it's an hour every single week, you've 52 hours. And if it only took 30, you've actually wasted 22.
Right. And so that's why people don't do that. That's why they don't seek leverage, is it's just faster and easier. And now I know that you're, one of those driving personalities, Mary. You have impatience. You have to flip that around and find the time to leverage that out. I bet, especially if they're small tasks, you could afford right now to find and train an EA to do them, a virtual EA, and get those things off of your plate. But it would require an upfront investment for you to reap the rewards. And that's the math you have to work out in your head.
Yeah. And I have always viewed leverage like a muscle. Early on, a mentor told me if I ever wanted to be a millionaire, I had to start acting as if. And millionaires use leverage. And he challenged me to find one task that I was doing that I could leverage virtually for less than $5 an hour. And I was like, you can't do that. And he said, do you know that for a fact? And I said, no. He said, no, go figure it out. And I did. And I just viewed it like, can I just one time flex the muscle and prove to myself that I can just leverage this one task? And it actually became addictive for me, to the point where I created this whole system and strategy around leveraging that type of stuff. But when would be a good time to start, Mary?
Yep.
Now. John Butts, I'm looking for coaching/mentors. Email me, jeff@theonething.com. We're behind the scenes putting together a One Thing coaching program. We're not ready yet, but we'll make sure that you're on the list, John. Okay. Mary, Mary, you're so engaged. We love you. My ego says that time is better spent doing more dollar-producing activities when if focus on doing the smaller tasks, everything else would be easier and necessary. Yeah, so what's going to free you up to do more dollar-producing activities?
Dollar productive activities.
Productive. There you go.
Yep.
Reading, not my one thing.
Now you're reading on the microphone. Thank you for putting it on this side.
See?
You're such a gentleman.
You're so welcome. All right. Oh, Kim likes the time block document. Okay, cool. Can you share a generic time block document on our Living Your One Thing Facebook page? Yeah, Kim. So yesterday we went through this. We're actually going to post it in the training from yesterday, and we'll make sure that it's up there. We just need to do it.
Can I ask you to do something?
Yes.
And so Inez, you'll have to help us out. That document you're going to share in the community, we know that there's a percentage of people that were at our event that are not in that community. And I don't want to force them in to get that document. Would you mind sharing it with them? Okay, good. I don't want us to talk about something they don't have access to.
Yep, we'll get it to you guys as well. Michael, stretch goals are outside comfort zone. Also have to get much better at estimating how much time I need for time blocking an activity.
All right, two things. I think we all overestimate what we can get done in a certain amount of time. And if you're a reformed multitasker, multitaskers think everything takes longer, right, than it actually does. So there's usually a lot of time plays there. So I think my point there is that's totally normal, and you'll find the rhythm. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it, and try to build flexibility into your schedule so that if you need to push everything another 30 minutes to stay on task, you're able to do that. I've been coaching Jeff, like those time blocks. If he's so busy that every single day he's going from one appointment to the next, he never has the flexibility to say yes to something that's more important because he has to go to the next thing. And time blocking all day, every day is a mistake. Having big blocks of time allows you a little bit more flexibility because, you know, Gary, is he habitually on time or late to his meeting?
Late.
Why is that?
Until his number one priority is done, everything else is a distraction.
Right. And every day his life is lived in priority. So whatever came before your meeting was a higher priority. And if it takes longer, you're waiting for it. I mean, I love that about him. I hate waiting for him. But I appreciate and I understand, having seen him work long enough, that if he's at home, there's a higher priority at home. And he's living what he's going to expect me to live. And if I showed up late because my kids are sick, he would be cool with that too. But that is the nature of things. So building that flexibility until you're Gary Keller and can just show up late, that's important. What's going through your head?
Or is he Gary Keller because he does that?
That's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Michael, what I love about what you said, I have to get better at estimating how much time. When I heard that, I heard road to mastery.
Yeah.
There's no, I mean, you saw Jay already point things out on my 411 where I already made changes. I don't know that perfection exists. Have you ever had a day that you acted perfectly in order of priority ever?
The closest I ever come is the old, day before vacation miracle. I have to be super motivated by something to be on my AAA game. But I feel like I've gone from an average of a C to, I'm averaging B pluses most days, but no, perfection.
Yeah. And that's where I feel like I am too. So wherever you are on the spectrum of I absolutely suck at this to I feel like I am just dominating and crushing, it's a road to mastery. It's a journey. So you're going to mess up. Keep failing forward and share with us how you're doing because we want to continue to support you. Lynn says that behavior seems a little disrespectful to other people.
What behavior?
The Gary being late thing.
It is if you don't understand it, if you don't know where it's coming from. But that expectation was set between us a long time ago, and that's a conversation that happened before the showing up late. So just so you understand, I don't think Gary is rude by any means. And when he's meeting someone for the first time, it's highly unlikely that that's going to happen. And he would definitely be having him or someone warn them, hey, we need to delay this meeting.
Yeah. And let's be clear. I don't think we're advocating that you turn around and start showing up late to everything because it's not your number one priority. We say all the time, like, in an ideal world where you live in a vacuum, you act perfectly in order of priority. And then we wake up and realize we live in the real world where it matters that we show up to the meeting on time. It matters that we help other people when they ask if they've got a minute, because we want to be a team player. Right? We want to be in culture. There are times that you consciously choose to act out of priority. Example, my number one priority for this week is to finish that webinar for tomorrow. It ain't done. By me being here with you, I am choosing to act out of priority. But let's be very clear.
You made a commitment.
This is a conscious choice to honor the commitment. It is a conscious choice to act out of priority. At least I know what the priorities are. That's the shift.
Yep. And I apologize if I've reflected poorly on Gary. I wasn't trying to do that. I was trying to demonstrate that he does act in order of priority, and we usually understand exactly where that's coming from.
Yeah, cool. So thanks for asking, Lynn. What other questions do you have? We have 5 more minutes. Otherwise, Jay and I are happy to bicker. I missed him so much during vacation.
We'll just wax your back. There we go.
Dude.
It'll be great. People will pay. We'll see how much donations we can raise for that.
Team building. Yeah, we'll double
raise
down.
Money for charity.
Yeah, I'll do the chest too if it's enough.
Cool.
Oh, that hurt. Okay.
Then we're good. We'll give people a couple more.
Oh, final question that I had for you. How many of you have already time blocked your vacations for the year? Yes or no in the questions box.
I have.
What was really interesting out of everything that we did with the goal setting retreat, sitting down, looking at a paper calendar, which is why we're going to create one of these, and looking and going, oh yeah, Valentine's Day, I'm just going to take that day off because family's my one thing this year. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take my wife's birthday off. I'm going to take our anniversary off. Just these are the things that will allow me to show up as a better husband, since when we looked at all those roles, that was my number one thing. If I could be a better husband, it made everything else easier and necessary. And just looking at the year at the glance allowed it to happen.
Yep. That's how you get work to go around your vacations.
3 out of 4. Wow. Nice job, guys. Some of you still have some work to do. Totally cool. Can we ask for a commitment on when you'll have it done? When will you have looked at a calendar and blocked your vacation for the entire year by? Put it in the questions box.
I'm going to suggest by the end of the month.
Lee said, Joe and I spent New Year's Eve going through the entire year of vacation business trips. Very helpful. That's a New Year's Eve I didn't do.
That cracks me up.
Oh, thank you, Karen.
Last one up here. Someone asked, do spouses make good accountability partners?
No. Let's put it this way. My wife does not want me to be her accountability partner because my natural tendency as somebody who's highly assertive is to bring accountability to the table, to project it on other people. And she didn't ask for it.
I think it depends on the couple, and it depends on the level of permission you have with each other. I think there are times where Wendy and I make great accountability partners for each other, but it has to be invited, which is what you're implying. If it's not invited, it's usually not going to be very well received. But especially if your partner has got similar experiences, like my wife happens to be an entrepreneur, that helps. So I think I like that question, because ideally sitting down to discuss your 411 and having an accountability partner in your spouse are very different things. But the minimum standard, the whole goal setting retreat is, can you get on the same page with your spouses and partners? Communicating where you're going and getting in alignment is the journey that makes so many things easier and necessary. If you get accountability from that, you got a real bonus.
Yeah, that's right. Deb asked if we have dates for the goal setting retreat for 2018 yet.
Several people ask.
Several people. Not quite yet. We're getting close. We had to finalize our vacations, and now we've got some work to do around venues and stuff like that. We do hope to have it very soon, and you'll be the first to know.
What are the months you're considering?
November or October.
So you guys showed up and gave us your time. If y'all had to vote for, I think the earliest you can be practical about this would be
second half of October.
Yeah, it'd be really tough. But I'd say early November, late November, or early December. I think October, Halloween is too crazy. What would y'all have a preference for?
Early December. Interesting. Is that too late?
I've done it there if I have to.
All right.
But it's all about when people can commit to it. Early November is an early leader, not in December. Yeah.
Early November seems to win.
Yeah, I actually put on my calendar, I already blocked the first 2 weeks of November and held it.
Yeah.
So I would hope that it would be either the first or second week of November.
Yep.
And Heather, I want to know the best time to come to Boston. I got your card. Thank you. Is there a live event in April? So Kim, we loved doing the event so much. Our goal is to actually do 2 this year based on coordinating schedules. We may be looking to June to do a mid-year event.
Or you can do it without me.
No. Do you want him there? The no's come flooding in.
There
Just
we
kidding. So we'll let you know as soon as we get dates for the events. Jay has to be there, says Devin.
I'll try, but this is his opportunity too. But if that's when everybody can do it, then we'll do it in April and we will find a way to make it work.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome, folks.
We're at the end of our time.
We're right at the top of the hour. Thank you very much for being here. If you have any questions, email me, jeff@theonething.com. We'll make sure that we help you. And as we'll send an email out, we'll get you everything that we promised you. And we really appreciate you guys. So thank you very much.
Love that you invested in the first goal setting retreat, folks. Really do.
Yeah, thank you.